Welcome to the grandest stage of them all. We're talking a legendary arena where titans absolutely clash, where legends are literally forged in sweat, and where every single shot has the potential to change history. Okay, well, maybe not history, but you get the idea. We're looking at the most exclusive, high-stakes venue in Washington, D.C. Today, in this explainer, we are stepping onto the hidden, high-altitude sanctuary known as the highest court in the land. So I gotta ask you, what exactly do you think happens at the highest court in the land? Like, when you hear that phrase, you're probably picturing 9 justices, right? Flowing black robes, sitting behind this massive mahogany bench, handing down these weedy rulings that shape the entire country. But what actually happens when you strip away all that pomp and circumstance? Well, there's this massive, completely counterintuitive secret hiding right in plain sight. It's just a few feet away from where constitutional history is made, and honestly, it's going to completely change how you view this whole institution. Okay, let's dive into this bizarre bait and switch. So down on the fourth floor of the Supreme Court building, it's all gavels, robes, and constitutional law. It's quiet, it's incredibly serious, and profoundly consequential. Every single word is measured. But just one flight of stairs up, on the fifth floor, it is a totally different universe. We are talking sneakers, sweats, and, unfortunately, torn Achilles tendons. Yep, sitting literally right above the actual Supreme Court chamber is a fully functioning, wildly competitive basketball court. Section 1. The real highest court. Let's look at how this crazy space actually came to be. Now, when this magnificent neoclassical temple of justice first opened its doors back in 1935, this fifth-floor space was absolutely not designed for gym rats. No way. As you can see in this neat little papercraft animation we've got going, it started out as this dusty, cold, concrete attic room. Its only job was to be a glorified storage closet for heavy law journals and extra wooden chairs. But then, in the 1940s, things take a wild turn. The room gets cleared out, and Justice Hugo Black actually decides to use that rock-hard concrete floor as a makeshift tennis court. Then, eventually, wooden backboards are hoisted up and boom, the attic is a basketball court. The evolution doesn't stop there, though. By 1984, those old wooden backboards get a much-needed upgrade to modern plexiglass. And finally, in 2015, they completely replaced that brutal concrete with a pristine, beautiful hardwood floor. It really cemented its status as this legendary sanctuary for clerks and justices. Section 2. A bizarre sporting arena. And let me tell you, the physical specs of this place are wild. 78 by 37. Those are the dimensions in feet. Now, to put that into perspective, an NBA regulation court is 94 feet long and 50 feet wide. So this room falls hilariously short of those professional standards. It is aggressively claustrophobic. I mean, the walls basically hug the sidelines. If you're diving for a loose ball to save possession, you aren't sliding into a row of padded folding chairs or some forgiving crowd of fans. Nope, you are going straight, headfirst into hard, unyielding plaster. Ouch. It basically forces this incredibly tight, frantic style of play where every single inch of space is just fiercely fought over. And man, the quirks just keep coming. 14.3. That's 14 feet and 4 inches. That is the exact ceiling height of this room. So if you're a player who relies on long-range shooting with a beautiful, high, sweeping arc, yeah, you are completely out of luck. The architectural design of the room totally disadvantages anyone trying to launch a deep three-pointer. It's this cramped, physically demanding space that forces you to totally abandon finesse. You gotta rely heavily on sharp passes, inside drives, and just brute force to get the ball in the hoop. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the incredibly strict warning sign posted right outside the gym doors. It reads, "Playing basketball and weightlifting are prohibited while the court is in session." Because, let's be honest, you really do not want to interrupt a landmark constitutional ruling with the squeak of sneakers, the clang of a dropped barbell, or, the frustrating sound of a missed slam dunk. And look, that rule exists for a highly practical, totally unavoidable reason: the acoustics of the building. The gym is situated immediately directly on top of the courtroom chambers. As you can see from these animated sound waves vibrating down through the floorboards, there is virtually no soundproofing capable of stopping a bouncing basketball. Every footstep, every heavy dribble, every dropped weight translates into massive, booming echoes downstairs. It literally sounds like thunder rolling across the marble ceiling of the Supreme Court. In fact, back in the 1940s, Chief Justice Fred Vinson actually heard a clerk enthusiastically practicing layups right in the middle of serious oral arguments. He had to send someone up there to immediately shut it down, basically dropping the gavel on any athletic activities while the court was on the clock.
Section 3, Full Contact Justice. Prepare yourselves for the physical carnage.
Seriously, forget the illusion of frail, bookish lawyers carefully poring over dusty texts. The physical damage that takes place on this court is genuinely shocking. We've got a veritable injury reel spanning decades. Snap to 1971, Justice Byron White plays so aggressively he ends up hobbling around the Supreme Court on crutches. Snap to 1987, future Justice Elena Kagan, who was then a young, eager law clerk, lands awkwardly during a frantic game and seriously injures her leg. Snap to 1993, Justice Clarence Thomas actually tears his Achilles tendon right in the middle of a vicious pickup game with a former Olympian law clerk. The Supreme Court might handle tort law, but up here on the 5th floor, they are out there generating their own personal injury cases. The undisputed enforcer of this bruising era was absolutely Justice Byron "Whizzer" White. He wasn't just a brilliant legal mind, you guys. He was a former NFL rushing champion and a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. And he brought all of that gridiron intensity directly to the hardwood. He was fiercely competitive, basically treating these after-hours pickup games like full-contact warfare. He'd throw sharp elbows at hapless, terrified law clerks. He'd body-check opposing players without a second thought, and literally knock people into those unforgiving plaster walls just to secure a critical rebound. If you stepped onto his court, you had to be ready for battle. And hey, the clerks weren't exactly safe from each other, either. Current Chief Justice John Roberts used to play up there regularly when he was a clerk back in the early 1980s. Now, he freely admitted that he lacked high-end basketball skill, but he absolutely made up for it with sheer, relentless, aggressive enthusiasm. He would run the floor tirelessly, self-deprecatingly describing his own chaotic play style as 40 minutes of what the hell, just nonstop, reckless energy echoing right above the highest court in the country. But honestly, perhaps the best perspective on all this sweaty chaos comes from Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. When she arrived, she actually asserted her own kind of dominance over this space. She started a morning aerobics and yoga class in the gym to actively carve out space for women in a building that was, historically dominated by men. She certainly wasn't about to get body checked into a wall. So when she saw a young Elena Kagan hobbling down the hallway after that brutal basketball injury we mentioned earlier, O'Connor simply looked at her, shook her head sadly at the absolute madness of the basketball games, and delivered this legendary deadpan quote. It would not have happened in aerobics. Absolutely perfect. Section 4. An impartial sanctuary. Let's bring the energy down just a little bit and talk about why this room actually matters. Despite the fact that these hyper-competitive clerks will sometimes literally pause the game to litigate a disputed foul call like they're arguing before a judge, this space actually serves as an incredibly important haven. It provides critical, much-needed stress relief. This is especially true during heavy, high-stakes moments, like intense capital punishment cases, when the pressure inside the building is just immense and cortisol levels are through the roof. Up here on the hardwood, ideological differences completely disappear. A strict constructionist will seamlessly pass the ball to a living constitutionalist. It turns into this beautiful masterclass in bipartisan teamwork. They get to sweat it out and just connect as regular human beings rather than opposing legal minds. So the crucial point is beautifully captured by this wonderful observation from a Sports Illustrated piece on this very court. They wrote, "There are no alternative facts in basketball. There are winners and there are losers. There is justice." It really is a profound leveling power. When the final score is tallied, there's no room for interpretation. The court provides a beautifully clear, absolute, undeniable reality in a city, and a specific building really, that is usually entirely steeped in complex, nuanced gray areas. Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder. When the robes come off, are they really just like us? It's pretty amazing to step back and marvel at the wonderfully human, messy, intensely competitive, and highly physical reality happening right above the highest law in the land. The next time you read about a monumental, world-shifting Supreme Court decision, just remember, there is a very decent chance the people who wrote it were throwing elbows, sweating through their t-shirts, and shooting hoops just a few feet away. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep staying curious.